Mr. Dorsey. No way.
Careful, Corey. You're smart. Don't let smart get you killed.
On the first day of spring semester, a public high school in Birmingham hands out free DNA kits for a science fair project on ancestry and forensic science. Within 2 weeks, the FBI shows up. The beloved algebra teacher, quiet, punctual, always wore a cardigan, is arrested for a triple homicide from 1997. But his brightest student doesn't buy it. Something doesn't add up. When a beloved high school teacher is arrested after a DNA match ties him to an unsolved 1997 murder, his top student, 17-year-old Corey Langston, refuses to believe it. As Corey investigates on his own, he uncovers a trail of sealed records, corrupt law enforcement, and someone in the school district with everything to lose if the real truth gets out. The deeper Corey digs, the more he realizes Mr. Dorsey might not be the only one who's been living under a false identity, and the truth could get them both killed. Quick heads up before we jump in. If you're into real stories, strange disappearances, and the kind of truths people try to bury, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. All right, let's get into it. Mr. Dorsey always smelled like chalk and Old Spice. His voice never got louder than a mumble, but his class was the one room in Jefferson High where you could hear a pin drop. He taught algebra too, like it was a religion, proofs, slopes, systems of equations, and he made even the loudest seniors shut up and take notes. Corey Langston sat in the third row, same seat he'd had since August. He'd never missed a day, never wanted to, because Mr. Dorsey saw him. Not just the A's on his tests or the way he caught math like it was a second language, but him. The kid behind the cracked iPhone, behind the hoodie that covered his thinning locks. The one who didn't say much since his older brother got locked up last fall. So when Ms. Bradshaw from the science department rolled in that Tuesday morning with a rolling cart stacked with shrink-wrapped boxes labeled Genesine DNA Explorer, Corey barely looked up. Extra credit, she chirped. Volunteer to swab your cheek, learn a little about forensic genetics, and get 5 points added to your lowest quiz. Y'all trying to turn us into CSI? Someone snorted from the back. Laughter. But a few hands went up. Corey hesitated. Mr. Dorsey looked over his glasses. It's optional, but real-world data sets can make your stats assignments easier to relate to. That did it. Corey raised his hand. By lunch, almost half the school had participated. They told them it was anonymous, that it was for science only. The kits would be labeled by barcode, no names. Just cheek swabs, sealed envelopes, and drop-offs to the Genesine lab, which partnered with local universities. All hush-hush, all legal. Or so they said. 3 days later, Mr. Dorsey didn't show up to school. By fourth period, the hallway was buzzing with whispers. That he'd had a heart attack, that he'd gone on vacation, that his mother died. But Corey knew something was off. Mr. Dorsey never missed school. Not for the flu, not for teacher workdays. Not even when it snowed last year and buses were late. That man showed up. So when the assistant principal came on the intercom voice tight, cautious, and said, "Please disregard any rumors surrounding Mr. Dorsey's absence. Classes will continue as scheduled." Corey sat up straight. It wasn't just absence anymore. It was cover-up. And when Corey got home and his cousin Dre texted him a screenshot of a headline, "Birmingham teacher arrested in connection to 1997 cold case, homicide," with Mr. Dorsey's yearbook photo beneath it, he dropped his phone. The same man who taught him how to solve for X had allegedly left 3 bodies behind a liquor store in Montgomery. No way. No damn way. Something didn't add up. And Corey was going to find out what. By Wednesday, the school had a sub in Mr. Dorsey's room. Her name was Ms. Fanning, but everybody just called her what they called all subs Miss What's Your Face. She was young, wore red lipstick too bright for 8A major, and kept squinting at the whiteboard like math was something she'd only heard about on TV. "Okay, class," she chirped, clutching the lesson plan like it was a bong. "We're going to be reviewing linear regression." "Whatever that is?" Laughter. Phones came out. One boy started watching TikToks at full volume. Corey didn't laugh. He didn't pull out his phone. He stared at the empty desk at the front of the room. The desk that still had Mr. Dorsey's mug on it, the one shaped like a calculator with Math is Life on the side. Nobody touched it, like it was sacred, like it might explode if they did. He raised his hand. Miss What's Your Face looked surprised. Yes. Corey? Why was he arrested? A ripple moved through the classroom. Someone whispered, "Bro." She blinked fast. "That's not an appropriate discussion right now. We're going to stay focused on the material." Corey nodded slowly, but his fingers were already sliding his phone from his hoodie pocket. Later that night, Corey was back in his room, door locked, laptop screen lighting his face. He'd read every article he could find, but they all said the same vague crap. DNA match confirmed in 1997 Montgomery triple homicide case. Suspect identified as Birmingham City Schools teacher Harold Dorsey, 52, formerly known by the alias Randall Mays. Arrest made without incident. Investigation ongoing. Alias. That word twisted in Corey's stomach like bad leftovers. Mr. Dorsey had another name? He zoomed in on the mugshot. It didn't feel real. Mr. Dorsey's face was the same but different. Sharper, like he was trying not to blink. The brown cardigan was gone. The calm was gone. The eyes, though, they looked sad. Warm. He clicked through 3 articles, checked Reddit, even found a thread from some true crime subreddit titled, "High School Teacher Actually a Murderer?" It posted the address of the liquor store where the murder happened. One commenter claimed it was drug-related. Another said the bodies were execution style. Corey kept going until his eyes burned, until a dull ache set in the middle of his forehead. Then he went back to the beginning. Alias. That meant Mr. Dorsey had changed his name. Maybe his life, which meant maybe there was a reason. Maybe there was a setup. Or maybe just maybe he didn't do it at all. The next day, Corey slipped into the front office between second and third period. The bell hadn't finished ringing yet, and the main secretary was still setting her coffee on the desk. He cleared his throat. "Excuse me, Miss Leona?" She looked up. "Mm-hmm. I left my graphing calculator in Mr. Dorsey's room before he left. Can I check his cabinet real quick?" She hesitated. "That room's under administrative control now, sweetheart. No students allowed in or out until they sort through his stuff. Even his cabinet?" She gave him a soft look. "Did you know him well?" "I was in his math club," Corey lied. "He kinda got me into numbers, you know." "I just want my calculator back." Ms. Leona sighed, then buzzed the door. "Make it fast, baby." Inside the classroom, Corey moved fast. He didn't go to the cabinet. He went straight to Mr. Dorsey's desk drawer. Locked. He tugged, cursed under his breath, then looked at the other drawers. Bottom right unlocked. Papers, red pens, a pack of throat lozenges, a crumpled copy of last semester's final. And something else. A folded index card with a key taped to it. On the card, written in Mr. Dorsey's neat, square handwriting. "For the safe, if anything ever happens." Corey's heart thudded. A safe? He checked the back cabinet. Nothing. And remembered. Dorsey had always kept a tall black file cabinet behind his desk. The bottom drawer never opened all the way. People thought it was jammed. It wasn't. Corey slid the key into the lock and turned it. Click. Inside, under some hanging folders, was a small metal safe. Fireproof, heavy. He swallowed. That night, he cracked it open at home, used the key and his screwdriver. Inside were a thick yellow envelope marked Montgomery PD Internal, a photograph of 3 boys, maybe 16 or 17, in front of a liquor store, one of them unmistakably a younger Mr. Dorsey, a receipt from a motel dated August 24th, 1997, the night of the murders, and a tape cassette labeled Confession, LG. Corey's breath caught. A confession? The tape was old. He didn't even have a cassette player. But his grandma did. He stared at the photo again. Dorsey No, Randall Mays, stood off to the side, arms crossed. The other 2 boys? Faces blurred, but something about them felt familiar. The way one leaned, the way the other hunched. The envelope weighed heavy in his hand, whatever this was. It wasn't just about Mr. Dorsey anymore. Corey didn't sleep. The metal safe sat on his bedroom floor like a cursed object. Every time he turned away from it, he could feel it staring at him. The envelope, the motel receipt, that photo, that damn cassette, and the label on it scrawled in red ink like blood dried in sun. Confession, LG. He ran through every LG he knew, but nothing clicked. Not in the school. Not on the news. Not in the old Reddit threads. The next morning, he took the tape with him zipped deep into the inside pocket of his hoodie and headed 3 blocks east to his grandma's house. She never updated anything. Her kitchen still had wood paneling. Her TV was thick as a washing machine. And most important, she still had a stereo with a cassette deck. He knocked. "Corey?" she said, surprised. "You hungry, baby?" "Nah, Grandma, I just ... Can I borrow your radio for a school thing?" She squinted. "You mean that dusty thing under my Curtis Mayfield CDs?" "Exactly that one." She waved him in, kissed his cheek. "Don't break it. And don't go touching my Al Green collection." Then silence. Then breathing, heavy, unsteady. Then a voice. "Okay, it's on? Okay, my name is Lamont Givens. I was there. I saw it." Corey hit pause. Lamont. Givens. LG. He rewound 5 seconds. Hit play again. Reese. Corey sat up straighter. Reese brought the gun. Said we'd get in, grab the cash, and be out in 3 minutes. It was Randall who said no. He didn't want nothing to do with it. Told us to go home. He left before anything even happened. Before ... Before Reese pulled the damn trigger. There was a beat of silence. Then sobbing. He didn't do it. Randall didn't do it. He wasn't even there when they died. But they said we had to pin it on someone. And I let him. I let him bury it. I let him bury him. The tape stopped. Corey sat frozen. Heart pounding. Randall. But this was a recorded confession. A man admitting to witnessing the murder and clearing Randall's name. Why hadn't this come out before? He ejected the tape, just stared at it. That night, Corey didn't go home. He took 2 buses across the city to a branch of the Birmingham Public Library, grabbed an hour on a computer, and searched. Lamont Givens, Montgomery, 1997. It didn't take long. Lamont Givens was arrested twice. Both charges minor, possession and trespassing. Nothing violent, nothing recent. He'd gone quiet after 2004. There were no photos past the mugshots. But one article caught Corey's eye. 3 teens linked to 1997 Montgomery triple homicide. One juvenile identified as Lamont Givens, 15. Charges later dropped after insufficient evidence. So he was there. And somehow, he walked, but Mr. Dorsey didn't. Back at home, Corey took out the envelope marked Montgomery PD, internal. Inside were 8 printed pages, photocopies, police memos. One had a header that read, Detective R. Danner, alteration of statement. Corey read it 3 times before it sank in. Subject's original statement indicates presence of third party, identified as RMAs. Statement was revised 48 hours later at the direction of supervising officer. Changes approved by D.E.T. Reese. Reese. That was the same name Lamont said on the tape. Corey's chest tightened. If Detective T. Reese had been involved in the original investigation, and now Lamont had accused that same Reese of bringing the weapon, then someone powerful helped bury this, which meant someone powerful might also want it to stay buried. And if Corey wasn't careful, he might end up in the ground too. The next morning, Corey couldn't focus in class. He was staring at the name in bold letters on the memo photocopy folded inside his hoodie pocket. Detective T. Reese. It gnawed at him. Same Reese Lamont had blamed. Same Reese who signed off on changing Lamont's statement to place Randall at the scene. The same Reese who, according to everything Corey could find online, had become Captain Terrence Reese of the Montgomery P.D. Decorated, respected, retired last year with honors. No one ever questioned his cases. Until now. That evening, Corey sat at his laptop with a pad of notes, earbuds in, tabs open. He pulled up a public record search and dug into Captain Reese's career. The man had spent 35 years on the force. Started in patrol, moved into narcotics, then homicide. Promoted quickly. Faster than most. A hero cop. A black man who cleaned up the city. But Corey started noticing a pattern. Too many of Reese's cases relied on shaky confessions. Too many involved teenagers. And more than a few of those teens had no legal counsel when interviewed. One in particular stood out: a 2001 drug case involving a 14-year-old named Malik Branson, who confessed to being a lookout in a stash house raid. Charges were dropped years later when it was revealed he wasn't even in the city that night. Reese had been the lead. There was a name at the bottom of that case file, 2-1 Corey didn't recognize. Aubrey Bree Whitmore, public defender. He scribbled the name on his notebook, circled it, then Googled. She still practiced. Corey found her law office in downtown Montgomery. Just a small listing. Whitmore Legal Group, Criminal Defense and Civil Rights. A few blog posts. Some articles about juvenile justice. He clicked through, hit the contact page, and stared at the number. Would she even talk to a high school student? Would she believe him? He picked up the phone anyway. Whitmore Legal. This is Bree. Hi. Hi. My name's Corey. I go to Jefferson High in Birmingham. I'm calling about an old case from 1997, the liquor store murder. A long pause. Who is this again? My teacher got arrested for it last week. His name's Harold Dorsey, but I think his real name's Randall Mays. I found something. Stuff he kept hidden. There's a tape, and I think he was framed. Another pause, longer this time. Come to my office, she said, voice sharp. Tomorrow, after school. Bring everything you found, and don't say a word about this on any phone line again. Not unless you want it traced. She hung up before he could respond. The next day, Corey took the 340 megabits down I-65 with nothing but a backpack, the cassette, and his mom thinking he was staying late for tutoring. The Whitmore Legal Group was on the 3rd floor of a red brick building between a bail bond shop and a barber shop. The reception area was tiny. No secretary. Just a fan, a chipped water cooler, and a door with frosted glass. It opened before he could knock. You Corey? Asked a woman in a navy blue blouse, silver locks pulled into a low bun. Yes, ma'am. I'm Bree Whitmore. Come in. And close the door behind you. Her office was wall-to-wall books. Law journals, court transcripts, binders thicker than bricks. She didn't sit behind her desk. She sat across from Corey, eye level, like they were teammates. He laid everything on the table. The photo. The motel receipt, the tape, the memo. When he finished, she leaned back, eyes heavy. That boy Lamont, I tried to defend him back then, but they pulled him from my client list after his statement changed. I always thought something was off. You knew Detective Reese? Corey asked. She nodded slowly. Too well. He was dirty, wasn't he? She didn't answer at first, just looked at the memo, the redacted lines. Then she tapped her desk twice, like she was trying to wake herself up from a memory. I don't know how deep it goes, she said, but if your teacher had all this, it means he was preparing to reveal it. To someone. Corey shifted in his chair. He never even hinted at anything. Never told stories. Never even talked about his life. Then why keep this? Bree asked, holding up the envelope. Why save a confession tape if you're not going to use it? Corey swallowed. Maybe he was waiting for someone to believe him. She stared at him. And now they'll do anything to make sure no one does. The Greyhound pulled into downtown Montgomery just before sundown. The city looked like a faded photograph, weathered brick buildings, wide streets too quiet for the hour, and that thick southern air that never quite cooled down. Even in March, Corey stepped off the bus with a backpack full of danger and a notebook full of names. He shouldn't have come alone. He knew that. But after what Ms. Whitmore told him yesterday about sealed case files, about kids coerced into confessions, about officers who lost evidence, he couldn't just sit at home pretending this was all in his head, because it wasn't. Randall May's Mr. Dorsey was sitting in county jail, and someone had made damn sure he stayed forgotten. Corey walked 6 blocks to the motel, the Starlight Inn. It was still their same name as the receipt dated August 24th, 1997. The man at the front desk was barely awake. His name tag read Marquis, and his headphones never left his ears. I'm looking for room 212, Corey said, laying the old receipt on the counter. Marquis squinted. We on digital now, little man. That paper don't mean much. I just want to know if it's the same room. Was this room here back then? He shrugged. Probably. I've been here since 2019, but we don't change the numbers. Why? My uncle used to stay here, Corey lied, trying to piece together some stuff for the family. Marquis yawned. Well, unless your uncle owes us money, you good. Ain't nobody in 212 tonight. He slid a key card across the counter. Room 212 was upstairs, end of the hallway. Next to a vending machine, it sounded like it was choking on loose change. The room smelled like old soap and ceiling mold. Corey stood in the center, holding the receipt. This is where Randall was that night. The night 3 boys were murdered. The night Lamont Givens said Randall left before it happened. The night Reese's altered police report claimed he never had an alibi. The receipt proved otherwise. He snapped photos of the room door, window, bathroom, timestamp on the receipt next to the motel logo. Every detail. He'd add it to the folder. Then he spotted something. The dresser drawer stuck out slightly. He tugged it open, thinking it'd be empty. But inside was a torn piece of cardboard with faded handwriting in Sharpie. Don't trust him. R. His chest tightened. The R looked just like the handwriting on the index card taped to the safe key. Mr. Dorsey had been here. Maybe more than once. Maybe he'd been watching, waiting, or hiding something here all along. Back at the bus depot, Corey sat on a metal bench, the night pressing in like a lid. His phone buzzed. One new message, unknown number. You shouldn't be asking about 1997. You're not ready for what it cost him. His fingers froze over the screen. Then another message came. Go home, Corey, before they make you disappear, too. He stared at the screen, then looked around. No one he recognized. Just tired travelers, a crying baby, a woman arguing with the driver. Nothing out of place, except the pounding in his ears. He shoved the phone in his pocket and stood. He wasn't going home. Not yet. Corey didn't sleep the next night either. The messages haunted him. Not just the words, but the way they felt intimate. Like whoever sent them knew more than what he'd Googled. Like they'd watched him. Maybe followed him back from the Starlight Inn. He reread them until the screen burned his eyes. Then he deleted them. Not because he wasn't scared, but because he refused to be. Mr. Dorsey had trusted no one. Not even the cops. Maybe especially not the cops, but he had kept records. Had built a quiet trail of truth and hid it in a classroom full of teenagers. Corey had to keep following it. By Thursday, he was back in Birmingham. And this time, he wasn't going alone. Wait, y'all think Mr. Dorsey didn't do it? Asked Dre, leaning against the cafeteria table like Corey had just asked him to rob a bank. I know he didn't. I heard the confession, Corey said. And I got a receipt that proves he wasn't even there when the murders happened. But the cops said he was. Okay, but why you? Dre asked. Why you gotta be the one playing Hardy Boys? Corey looked around, no teachers nearby. Just noise, laughter, sloppy lunches. Because no one else will. Dre sighed, wiped barbecue sauce off his mouth with the back of his hand. Fine. You said you got names? Yeah. Detective Reese and somebody else. I'm looking into this old journalist. He wrote about the case back then. His name's Mitchell Park. Used to be with the Montgomery Chronicle. Retired now, but his email's still on their website. Dre blinked. You already emailed him? I emailed him. I texted him. I even DM'd him on LinkedIn. You got LinkedIn? Corey ignored him. Later that day, the journalist responded. FROM, Mitchell Park, subject, Randall Mays Corey. I remember the case, vividly. You're not the first person to question it, but you might be the first who actually found something. I won't write about it, too old, too dangerous, and I've got grandkids. But I'll talk to you. Meet me at the back booth of Eddie's Diner, Friday noon. Don't bring your phone. Don't bring anyone who talks more than they think. MP Friday. Eddie's Diner looked like something out of an old movie vinyl booths. Yellow-tinted windows, jukebox in the corner, nobody used. The kind of place you could sit in for hours and not get noticed. Corey slipped into the back booth 5 minutes early. The man who showed up 5 minutes late wore a gray trench coat and wire-rimmed glasses. Looked like he hadn't shaved in days. You Corey Langston? He asked, sliding in across from him. Corey nodded. Yes, sir. Mitchell Park didn't smile. He just stared at Corey for a long second, like he was checking for something under the skin. You look like someone who should be playing ball. Or chasing girls, not chasing ghosts. Corey shrugged. Ghosts don't kill people. Cover-ups do. Park cracked the faintest smile at that. They talked for almost an hour. Park didn't just remember the case, he lived it. Back then, he said, the Chronicle was trying to run a piece on youth incarceration. Someone tipped them about inconsistencies in the Randall Mays arrest. But just before they printed, their editor pulled the story. Called off by someone above, Park said, sipping lukewarm coffee. I never knew who. But I know when power makes a phone call, the truth gets buried real quick. He paused, then leaned in. You said you had a tape? Corey nodded. A confession. From Lamont Givens. Park whistled. Now there's a name I haven't heard in 2 decades. You ever meet him? No, but I know he disappeared. Dropped off the map after the case. No job history, no social media, no tax filings. Some of us think he was either silenced or paid to stay gone. By who? Park looked out the window. Depends who you believe. There were whispers that Detective Reese had ambitions. Wanted to run for state office. But that went away after a quiet misconduct complaint. Connected to the Mays case? Could be. Could be something else. But I'll tell you this, if you're asking these kinds of questions, You'd better be ready to find answers nobody wants to hear. Corey's jaw tightened. I'm not doing this for curiosity. Park studied him for a long beat. No, I don't think you are. He reached into his coat and pulled out a manila folder. I've been holding this since '99. Figured someone might come looking someday. Looks like today's the day. Corey opened it. Inside, an early draft of a police report. Not the one that got filed. This one had names. A witness list. One of those names matched the initials LG, another said. Ree, Investigative Officer, Terrence Reese. Recommendation. Internal review pending due to procedural inconsistencies. A line had been scratched out in blue pen. Park pointed to it. Whoever redacted this copy forgot to erase the original name underneath. See that? He held it up to the light. Randall Mays, marked as uncooperative witness, not suspect. Corey felt the air leave his lungs. They never charged him until they needed a fall guy. As Corey stood to leave, Park said one last thing. You're getting close, but that means someone's watching you now. If you're gonna keep digging, you better be smart and fast. Corey looked back at the man who had buried the truth in a folder for 20 years. I don't plan on getting buried, Corey said. Not like he was. It started with a bus ticket. Corey found it tucked in the back of the folder Mitchell Park had handed over. Almost like an afterthought creased down the middle, date faded to gray. Greyhound Montgomery to Atlanta. Departure, September 2nd, 1997. Passenger, L. Givens, Lamont. 1 week after the murders. 1 week after Randall Mays supposedly killed 3 kids behind a liquor store. And the same week, the police had quietly shifted Lamont's statement. Corey stared at it for a long time. A name, a route, a date. It was barely anything. But it was a start. He opened his laptop and searched everything he could. Lamont Givens, plus Atlanta. Missing person 1997 Georgia. Witness protection 1990s Youth Montgomery. Nothing solid. Dead links. Defunct pages. Missing photos. But one article popped up on page 4 of a local Georgia archive. Man shot outside East Point gas station, ID pending. The victim, believed to be in his late 20s, was found without ID. Authorities confirmed he used multiple aliases across different shelters. A partial fingerprint matched a sealed juvenile case out of Alabama. Corey's hands shook. That had to be Lamont. Same age, same route. Multiple aliases meant he was hiding from someone. Sealed juvenile case meant Montgomery PD kept him quiet. He opened the article's comments, long since closed, but someone had archived them. One user had written, I remember this guy. Stayed at a halfway house on Auburn Avenue. Didn't talk to nobody. Always walked like he was looking over his shoulder. Another said, he told me once his friend went to prison for what he saw. That's all. Then he moved on. Corey's mouth went dry. That was it. That was the whole point. Lamont ran for 10 years, then died with no name, no family, no justice. He printed everything. The bus ticket, the article, the fingerprint match. He made copies of the confession tape, put them in a flash drive, sent one to Ms. Whitmore by certified mail. Then he did something he'd been avoiding all week. He called the county jail. Can I speak to an inmate? He asked. The woman on the line sounded bored. Who you trying to reach? Randall Mays. They booked him as Harold Dorsey. A long pause. You immediate family? No. Then you can leave a message, and if he accepts, we'll schedule a video call. Corey hesitated. Then he said into the phone, Tell him Corey Langston called, and tell him I believe him. That night, he didn't go home. He sat on the edge of his bed, eyes raw from staring at the same photo, over and over 3 boys in front of the liquor store. One of them was Mr. Dorsey, looking young, arms crossed. The other 2 remained nameless. But Lamont, he was somewhere in that frame. Had to be. Buried in an old city. Buried by fear. Buried by the lie. And now? Now it was Corey digging him up. The next morning, Ms. Whitmore called. "I got the package," she said without preamble. "And I found something?" The sealed case file from 97, the one with Lamont's original testimony. It's been sealed under a juvenile protection clause. But get this, it's sealed indefinitely. That's rare. Very rare. Someone didn't want this revisited. Ever. You can open it though, right? I'm filing a motion. But Corey, her voice softened, whoever put this kid in hiding also made sure he stayed hidden. His name was removed from all court transcripts after 1998. No forwarding address, no social, no record of witness protection. It's like they deleted him. He was murdered, Corey said, in Atlanta. I'm sure of it. And we need proof, and we need to move fast, before the people who buried him start noticing we're pulling at the grave. That evening, Corey's inbox pinged. One new email. Subject, don't stop. They erased Lamont. They'll try to erase you next. But someone kept records. Go to the locker behind the bus depot. Look under Jameson, a friend. Corey reread the message. It came from a scrambled IP. No reply option. Just coordinates. And a locker number. The Birmingham bus depot didn't sleep. It buzzed with tired movement suitcases rolling over scuffed tile, crying toddlers tugging at weary parents, vending machines humming with apathy. Corey walked in, wearing a hoodie pulled low, hands shoved in his pockets, head down like any other kid waiting for a ride that never came. He wasn't here for a ride. He was here for Locker 19B. He found it near the far wall, wedged between an out-of-order payphone and a cracked map of bus routes through Alabama. It was one of the older locker's metal door, rusting at the edges, the kind that didn't require a digital code. Just a key. Or, in this case, a slip of folded paper taped to the inside with a combination scribbled in blue ink. 19B22692. He turned the dial. Right to 2. Left to 26. Right to 92. Click. Corey opened it slowly, heartbeat ticking in his ears. Inside, a black backpack. Nothing else. He pulled it out, zipped it open, hands careful, breath shallow. The contents were strange, deliberate, and terrifying. A handwritten letter, sealed in a plastic sandwich bag, labeled Confession, LG. A burnt photograph, half-charred, showing the same liquor store from the infamous 1997 crime scene. Only this one had 4 boys standing out front. The 4th boy was scribbled out in black ink. A USB drive with a sticky note. Watch everything. Share nothing until safe. And at the very bottom, a battered, leather-bound composition notebook with initials pressed into the front. RM. Corey's fingers trembled as he turned it over. Randall Mays. Mr. Dorsey kept a journal. He didn't open the notebook yet. Instead, he pocketed the USB drive and letter and moved fast out the side door of the depot, through the parking lot, across the street into the shadows of a laundromat closed for renovations. He ducked behind the boarded entrance and crouched low. No footsteps, no strange cars, no movement. Only the blood rush in his ears. He waited 5 minutes. Then 10. Only when the street grew still did he take out his phone and text Ms. Whitmore. Got something big. I need to show you. In person. She replied within seconds. Come to my office tomorrow. Early. Before 9, doors locked. Bring no one. And Corey, if someone followed you, don't come. Burn it all instead. That night, Corey sat on his bedroom floor and opened the composition book. The first page was blank. The second had a date. August 3rd, 1997. I don't know who this is for. Maybe no one. But if they ever come for me, this is the truth. All of it. The kind the cops wouldn't write down. The kind they were paid to ignore. Corey flipped through pages covered in tidy handwriting. Reese wasn't just a dirty cop. He was running something young boys, small-time runners, some too young to know better. He used us, all of us. And when one of the dealers tried to cut ties, Reese had us scare him. That's what he said. Just scare him. But Reese brought a gun. And when it was over, 3 boys were dead. Lamont saw it all. I saw Lamont run. I ran too. But the next day, my name was in the statement. Only I didn't give one. Someone else wrote my guilt before I ever opened my mouth. Corey flipped faster. His chest tightened. I changed my name the night Lamont vanished. I used my cousin's ID, moved to Birmingham, taught math under Dorsey. Ever since, I never ran again, but I never stopped remembering. Every kid I helped, every student I taught, I was trying to pay back the lives I couldn't save. If you're reading this, then they finally caught me, and I need you to finish what I couldn't. Don't trust the badge. Don't trust the files. And whatever you do, don't trust Reese's daughter. R.M. Corey froze. Reese's daughter. He turned to the final page. Clipped inside was a school ID photo. A woman. Hair pulled into a high bun. Clean-cut blazer. Name tag just barely visible. Assistant Principal Cherise Reese. Jefferson High School. His school. His front office. His hall passes. His suspension threats. His authority. And the same person who stood silent on the intercom the morning Mr. Dorsey disappeared. Corey's mouth went dry. He closed the journal. The pieces were no longer scattered. They were falling into place, and the enemy wasn't just in the past anymore. She was walking the halls. Corey didn't sleep. Again. He sat in his room, lights off, the only glow coming from the hallway beneath his door. Every time his mother's footsteps passed, he froze. The backpack still sat in his closet, filled with everything Mr. Dorsey's notebook, Lamont's full confession, the USB, and the ID photo. Assistant Principal Cherise Reese. He could barely breathe thinking about it. She had walked those halls for 5 years. She'd handed him detentions, smiled during assemblies, spoken at Black History Month like she actually cared. All that time, she was watching Mr. Dorsey. And worse, she had to know who he really was. Why else would his journal end with her name? At 8:32 a, Corey slipped through the doors of the Whitmore Legal Group. Bree Whitmore was already at her desk, sleeves rolled up, black coffee in hand. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "You brought it?" she asked. He nodded, pulling out the folder. The locker had more than I expected. A letter from Lamont, a USB, and this. He laid down the composition notebook and opened to the page with the ID photo. Whitmore leaned in, squinting. That's our assistant principal, Cherise Reese. Her expression flattened. Daughter of Captain Terrence Reese, Corey said, voice flat. She's been at Jefferson since I was in 8th grade. The whole time. Whitmore sank into her chair, fingertips pressed against her lips. I thought she looked familiar, she whispered. When I was a public defender, Reese's family was off limits. No one talked about them. His daughter had a sealed juvenile record herself vanished from the court system in '99, then reappeared 5 years later with a teaching certificate and a new name. She's using her real name now, Corey said. She's hiding in plain sight. Whitmore exhaled slowly, then opened the notebook, scanning the entries. Jesus, she muttered. Randall documented everything. The threats, the setup, the bribes. Even the date Reese's team altered the testimony. He wasn't hiding, Corey said quietly. He was waiting. He needed someone to finish it. Bree looked at him. Then let's finish it. That afternoon, they played the USB on her secure office computer. It was raw footage digitized from old camcorder tapes, time-stamped, stamped with dates ranging from August to September 1997. The first video showed a group of teenage boys sitting on the hood of a car in front of the same liquor store from the photo. No audio. But one of them was clearly Mr. Dorsey, younger, laughing. He had his hands in his pockets, like he already didn't trust the scene. The second video cut abruptly. This one had audio. Y'all ready or what? Man, let's just scare him in and out. You got the gun? Reese gave it to me. It's in the bag. Corey's skin went cold. Reese gave it to me? That voice didn't belong to Mr. Dorsey. It was another boy taller, bulkier, one of the three who later turned up dead. Then the final clip. A grainy shot of a boy Lamont given standing in a gas station bathroom. He looked straight into the camera, voice trembling. If I die, this ain't an accident. It was Reese. It was always Reese. He pulled the trigger, or made it happen. And he made Randall the fall guy. I can't live with it no more. I'm sorry. Then static, then black. Whitmore hit pause, her jaw locked tight. This is it, she whispered. This is everything. This clears him, right? In a just system? Absolutely. In ours? She shook her head. Not unless we hit hard, fast, loud. I can go to the press, Corey offered. No, not yet. We go through the courts. I'll file the motion to reopen the case. But Corey, if Chair Eyes Reese finds out we have this before we're ready, she'll bury it. Or bury you. Back at Jefferson the next morning, Corey felt eyes on him. Every hallway. Every classroom. He avoided the front office. He didn't stop for lunch. He kept the USB tucked inside the lining of his backpack, right next to the printout of Lamont's letter, and he carried Mr. Dorsey's notebook like a Bible. At the end of the day, as he headed for the bus stop, a voice stopped him cold. Mr. Langston. He turned. Assistant Principal Reese. Hair pulled back tight. Smile professional. But the eyes were dissecting him. I've been hearing interesting things. About your little science project. About your visits to Montgomery. Funny how curious you've become all of a sudden. Corey didn't blink. I'm just trying to understand why Mr. Dorsey's gone. She stepped closer. Sometimes people disappear for a reason. Sometimes they stay disappeared because that's safer for everyone. Corey felt it then. A threat. Soft, sharp, and direct. But he didn't back away. I think he's been quiet long enough, Corey said. And I think you already know what he left behind. Her smile faltered. Just a twitch at the corner of her mouth. Then she leaned in, voice a whisper. Careful, Corey. You're smart. Don't let smart get you killed. And just like that, she walked off, heels clicking like a countdown. By Monday morning, the courthouse smelled like paper and fear. The kind of fear that wore suits. Quiet, measured, polished until it passed for confidence. Corey sat in the farthest row of the courtroom gallery beside Miss Whitmore, hands in his lap, backpack at his feet. Inside it, copies of everything Randall May's journal, Lamont's confession, the motel receipt, the bus ticket, the USB drive. The originals were safe in 3 separate places now, one of them mailed to a journalist in Atlanta. Just in case. Whitmore didn't say much. She tapped her foot softly, watching the bench like she was reading the judge's mind from 30 feet away. The bailiff called the case. Motion to unseal file #J-18765- in Juvenile case of Lamont Givens, 1997. Filed by Bree Whitmore, attorney of record. Purpose: petition to introduce newly discovered evidence relating to a sealed criminal case involving wrongful conviction of one Randall Mays, a.k.a. Harold Dorsey. Judge Channing looked down from the bench, brows pinched. You're asking to reopen a file sealed for nearly 30 years? Whitmore stood. Yes, Your Honor, because the man it helped convict never committed the crime. The state objected. Of course they did. The prosecutor, a heavy-set white man in a charcoal blazer, argued that reopening the case would destabilize confidence in juvenile confidentiality and risk community perception of institutional overreach. Translation: don't mess with our past mistakes. Whitmore didn't flinch. Your Honor, she said, steady as a scalpel, we have a sworn confession from the original juvenile witness. A confession that contradicts the state's narrative and clears my client. We have video, time-stamped motel receipts, and evidence of coercion by a now-retired detective whose daughter currently works for the same district that employed Mr. Mays under a false identity. The judge raised an eyebrow. You're implicating a public school administrator? We're implicating a cover-up, she replied. Across 2 departments, 2 cities, and nearly 3 decades, Channing paused, adjusted her glasses. Motion to unseal is granted provisionally. Juvenile record of Lamont Givens will be opened under judicial review. All related materials to be submitted within 48 hours. Whitmore's shoulders dropped a half-inch. Not relief, just a breath. Corey exhaled for the first time all morning. Outside the courthouse, the sun hit like truth-bright, unflinching. That's just the first crack, Whitmore said as they reached her car. Now we need to pry it open. Corey nodded, still dazed. So what happens now? I filed to submit all evidence for evidentiary hearing. If we're lucky, we get a court date. If we're real lucky, the DA steps down before it hits trial. Corey looked up. And if we're not lucky? Whitmore gave him a hard look. Then they tried to bury this again. That evening, Corey got a voicemail from a blocked number. He waited 2 hours before pressing play. Corey, it's me. I got your message. And I heard what you did. With the motion. With Lamont. They moved me. County transfer. Different block. No visitors. But listen close. There's more. The files you found, they're not the only ones. There's a storage unit, locker 208, off Route 82. I kept backups. In case I ever disappeared. If they knew you had the journal, they'll come looking. Finish this, even if I don't make it. Make them remember my real name. Randall Corey closed his eyes. His throat thickened. He played it again and again. Each time those last words pressed deeper into him. Make them remember my real name. The next day, Assistant Principal Reese was nowhere to be seen. No announcements, no emails. Her office dark. Students were buzzing. Corey walked past the front desk, heart steady. Ms. Leona gave him a wary glance. He just nodded. Back in Mr. Dorsey's Mr. May's old classroom, the desk still hadn't been touched. The mug with Math is Life sat exactly where it always had. Corey walked to the chalkboard and stared at it. Then, quietly, he picked up the white chalk and wrote in bold, clean strokes. R. Mays. Innocent. When he turned around, half the class was watching. But nobody said a word. The storage facility on Route 82 looked like every storage place Corey had seen in movies. Rows of corrugated doors, buzzed entry gates, peeling paint, and a kind of parking lot that stayed too quiet even when it wasn't empty. It was early Saturday morning, sun barely up, mist hanging low over the asphalt. Bree Whitmore sat in her car at the gate, double-checking the printed copy of the voicemail transcript. Locker 208. Randall had said it clearly. Corey sat beside her, bouncing his knee, backpack hugged to his chest. You sure this is safe? She asked. No, Corey said, but I'm sure it's necessary. The key came in an envelope Randall had mailed to her years ago. Never opened. She slid it into the padlock of Unit 208, turned it slowly. The lock popped. The door rolled up with a groan. Dust spilled out like time, breathing back at them. Inside were 2 shelves of banker boxes, a metal filing cabinet, and one small safe identical to the one Corey had pried open weeks ago. Whitmore snapped on gloves. Help me start with the labeled boxes. The first one read, Montgomery PD Internal 1994 to 1998. The second, Givens L. Juvenile Hearings, Witness Interviews. The third, Reese Det T. Corruption Reports. Corey's breath hitched. He was collecting everything. Whitmore's voice was low. This is a war chest. They worked for hours cataloging, photographing, scanning. Inside were records that had no business surviving. A memo from an internal affairs officer questioning Reese's financial records. A stack of yellowed index cards, all marked with names of boys arrested between 1994 and 1999, half of them tagged as confidential informants. A photo of Reese with two men, dated 1996, standing outside a federal courthouse. One of them was later convicted of evidence tampering. And in the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet, a sealed envelope, handwritten, "If I'm dead, this goes public. R. Mays." Inside, AUSB and a list of emails with one line at the top, blind copy to all. Whitmore read it, lips pressed tight. "This is how we finish it," she said. "You mean leak it?" "I mean burn it all down." Back in Birmingham that night, Corey sat at his laptop while Whitmore began drafting the emergency motion. On the screen, the digital scans loaded in silence. He paused over one image, a scanned police interview from 1997, redacted. But when Corey adjusted the color levels, text began to reappear underneath the black bars. He leaned closer. Witness states debt. Reese instructed him to say the suspect was present. Threats of removal from protection program if refusal. Witness was 15. He pulled the original image next to it. The blacked out one, same statement. But the official version was cleaned, scrubbed, just like Lamont. Corey clicked a button. The folder was titled. They erased him. The next day, Whitmore filed the official motion to dismiss all charges against Randall Mays and to initiate a federal review of the Montgomery Police Department's Cold Case Division from 1995 to 2000. Within 12 hours, they received word. Reese's retirement pension had been frozen. A federal oversight committee was requesting a formal interview with Corey, and Randall Mays' transfer to solitary was being reversed. But there was one more message this time, hand-delivered. An envelope, no return address. Inside, a photograph of Corey, taken at the storage unit, and a sticky note with 5 words in bold black marker. You don't know everything yet. Whitmore looked at him across her desk. We're past the point of maybe. Corey nodded. So what now? She opened her laptop, eyes like steel. Now we tell the world. The auditorium at Jefferson High had never been so full. Students, teachers, reporters, parents who never came to PTA meetings. Even custodians stood in the back with arms crossed, listening. There wasn't an empty seat in sight. The banners on the wall still said, "We are Jefferson Strong." But today, they meant something different. Today, they were about a man the school district tried to erase. A man once known as Mr. Dorsey. A man whose real name was Randall Mays. Corey stepped onto the stage in a button-down shirt and shoes that pinched a little. First time he'd worn them since his cousin's funeral. A podium stood under the spotlight, but he didn't use it. He held the composition notebook in one hand. In the other, a printed photo of Mr. Mays, the kind teachers took for yearbooks. Soft eyes, calm smile, wisdom even then. Behind him, a screen flickered to life. Confession, Lamont Givens. Whitmore stood at the edge of the stage, arms folded, chin up. The USB had been shared with the Birmingham Courier, the Atlanta Times, the Innocence Project, and Channel 8 News. It had already gone viral. But this assembly wasn't about publicity. This was about memory. My name is Corey Langston, he began, voice steady but low. I was Mr. Dorsey's student, Some of y'all knew him. Some of y'all were afraid of him. Most of y'all respected him. Scattered nods. Silence. I'm here because he's not. He held up the notebook. This is his journal. He wrote down everything. The truth. The setup. The man who made it happen. And the reason he stayed quiet for almost 30 years. A pause. He swallowed. And the reason he stayed, even when he knew they could come for him at any moment. Corey looked out at the crowd. He stayed to teach us. Because he believed that even if the system couldn't be fixed, we could be. Someone clapped, then another, then a ripple. But Corey raised a hand to stop it. He didn't want applause. He wanted truth. He clicked the remote. The projector screen changed. Picture of 3 boys, then 4, then a redacted police memo, then a time-stamped motel receipt, then Lamont Givens' full confession. No sound played, but the weight of it filled the room. Outside, press vans circled like sharks, but inside it was still. Holy. Miss Leona from the front office wiped her cheek. One of the gym coaches nodded along, head bowed. Even the principal looked like he wanted to vanish. As Corey stepped down, Whitmore joined him. She whispered, "It's done." "No," Corey said. "It started." That night, the story broke nationwide. Teen uncovers evidence that frees former teacher in cold case cover-up. Retired cop implicated in 1997 triple murder hoax. Witness confession sparks overhaul of juvenile justice practices. By the next morning, Randall Mays had been released. The D had resigned. Detective Reese was under federal investigation. And Cherise Reese, gone. No statement, no trace. Just a resignation letter left on her desk. One sentence, "Some names are better left buried." 2 weeks later, Corey stood outside the old liquor store in Montgomery. It was boarded up now. "Us for sale." Sign leaned sideways in the window. Beside him stood Randall Mays, no cardigan, no handouts, no chalk stains. Just a simple collared shirt and eyes that held too many years in silence. "I used to think I could outrun it," Randall said. "The name, the lie. But you didn't run." Corey shook his head. "You didn't either. You just waited." Randall looked at him with something close to pride. "Maybe love." "You ever think about teaching?" he asked. Corey cracked a smile. "I thought about being a forensic analyst." "That works too." They stood there, shoulder to shoulder, as the wind moved through the rusted fence. Then Randall reached into his coat, pulled out a small plaque wooden hand-carved. He handed it to Corey. It read, "To those who refuse to forget. In memory of Lamont Givens. In honor of truth. In defiance of silence." And as Corey stared at it, something shifted in him. The grief didn't leave, but the silence did. Version 1. What we choose to see. Not every story ends with justice. Some just stop where the paperwork does. But if you listened closely, this wasn't just about what happened. It was about what we ignore. The assumptions we let slide. The voices we tune out because they don't come in the right tone. Somewhere, someone's living with the fallout of this story. Not as a headline, but as their everyday. So if this story stayed with you, don't let it fade. Shine it forward. Ask more. Doubt what's too quiet. Because what we choose to see or not see decides what happens next. Like, comment, share. Not for clicks, but for clarity. Because awareness is how silence breaks and how truth finds daylight.